The MedBricks webcast is focused on bringing distinguished Indians and others from diverse fields of science, medicine, technology, and philosophy to learn from each other and to create a new understandings and foster new ideas related to healthcare. Hey, good morning, India. Good afternoon, somewhere. Good evening, California, and then sleepy time in the East Coast. Welcome, you all. My name is Ramana Namaraju, MedBricks webcast host. I'm the host for the MedBricks webcast. This is a special healthcare media channel. We are live on 7 or 8 platforms right now. So we have a special guest today, and then we are going to talk about with him in a few minutes. And then after that, after I introduce the guest, and I am going to talk about a ancient Chinese pharmacologist. So, without further ado, let me introduce you my important guest. His name is Dino Soriano. Dino Soriano became a family nurse practitioner and a founder of Preceptor program for nurses. He created the first nationwide postgraduate transition to practice residency program that can be hosted by even a small rural practices. Let me bring him. Welcome, Dino. Welcome, Dino. Welcome to the webcast.
Welcome. Thank you for having me, and welcome everybody. I hope you're going to enjoy the show this evening or this morning in India.
Correct. Yeah. So tell me something about your background a little bit. How you came to this situation? Then we'll go through your presentation quick.
Absolutely. So I became a nurse practitioner back in 2014. But while I was going through my educational process, my school did not do any help or didn't provide any help to find clinical locations or clinical rotations for me to get my hands on patient training. And it ended up delaying my graduation by 6 months, which delayed my career. And at the time, I was living in 2 cities because I ultimately had to find my own preceptors, and they were 4 hours away by car. So I was driving back and forth every week, between the 2 cities to be able to finish my education. And it took a year and a half. And, I decided that, there's got to be a better way. And I didn't want other students to have to go through what I went through. So I created Clinical Matchmaking, which was the first professional preceptor placement service for nurse practitioners and physician assistant students. And today what we're going to be talking about is the newest program that I've developed. And this is for postgraduates, for after they get out of school and they get board certified and licensed, so that they have a structured transition to care and transition to practice. And it's really exciting.
Shall I go ahead and, go ahead. Yeah.
So when doctors go through medical school and they graduate from medical school, they're a doctor, but they're not going to go out independently at this point and actually start seeing patients on their own. They have a structured program called residency, and it's anywhere from 3 to 5 years for them to transition from learning about medicine to practicing medicine, because there's a big difference. And over the past 20 years, with the increase in the number of PAs and NPs coming out of school and fulfilling the practitioner role and seeing patients, that they need the same training, they need the same type of a structured program to make that transition from new grad to experienced provider. And we'll go to the next slide. And right now, the students are coming out of school and they're really taught about medicine, but they're not taught how to practice. And independent, all the countries around this country, all the countries around the world are facing an unprecedented demand for providers who are trained to deliver care that's safe, it's effective, affordable, that they're compassionate. And the only group of providers that can do this is APPs, because you can only produce so many doctors every year because of the time it takes to become a doctor. And there's a greater number of APPs coming out of school where, as long as they're trained properly and they have that guidance, they can become, a really good important member of a medical team at any practice to increase access to patient care and provide patient care to build a patient book of their own over that first year as they transition. And it's really needed as they learn to administer care, as they learn to do more of the documentation that is so necessary today in medicine. And when they do get hired on, as I always say, they get hired typically on an interview, a resume, and a prayer. But there's a greater than 20% turnover rate for all first grads coming out of school. And the problem is, if you're the practice owner or the hospital owner, you're bearing all the cost of recruiting them. You're bearing all the cost of training them. And if you hire them and 6 months into the program, they're just not that great, you either get rid of them and you start over and you still don't have that increased access to care for patients, or they're fantastic, but they're not under a long-term contract, and somebody poaches your new employee that you just spent a year training, and they go work for somebody else. So the practices have been bearing that cost, and that has been really put on the doctors, because a lot of the doctors own the practices, and they've been bearing that cost of training and recruiting. So I created a program that really addresses that solution and stops the financial losses for your facility or your practice, because the residency program that I've created is centralized, so that as an individual practice, you can't spend the $1 million plus to create your own full residency program, staff it, and then keep it updated with most current best practices. So by being able to partner with our CCMRP program, we can stop the lost revenue and we can stop the turnover rate being so high. And when the graduates go through residency, they do have to sign a 3-year employment contract at the end of that residency if you like them enough to hire them. And people don't think about, and practices don't think about, for every unfilled position, even a small practice, it's going to cost them $1,500 a day. And for a small practice, that could mean the difference between profitability and closing the doors. And your patient satisfaction, because of not having that access to care, is really not where it should be. So you want to be able to provide the proper level of access to care with the proper treatment and compassionate and proper care. But not having a program that transitions, you end up adding more stress to your staff and more stress to your patients. But under CMMRP, as we've dubbed it, we focus on and strive for clinical excellence. We utilize didactic instructions and then hands-on clinical training to prepare the APPs to develop that book of tools that they need so they can do better patient diagnostics, build better care plans, do proper follow-up and follow-through. And we partner them at the facility with either a board certified or a board's eligible medical doctor to become their attending. And every doctor that's listening, what it was like when you had an attending. You had to go to weekly grand rounds. So we do the same grand rounds with our APPs, where they come and they get virtual case presentations with the experienced direction on how to manage more complex cases. We were discussing earlier before the show that it doesn't take long to master how to treat a strep throat. But when you have a patient who comes in who's got uncontrolled diabetes or newly diagnosed diabetes, a new diagnosis of a mental health problem, or they have the big three, hyperlipidemia, hypertension, and diabetes, and you're managing that, you need to learn how to properly manage that chronic care patient to get the best outcomes and improve quality of life. So during the year of transition and direction and training, we help them get to the point where they're competent, they have better confidence, and it improves overall patient response and patient outcomes. And we'll go on to the next slide here. So, one of the things you'll be able to contact us about this, but we've designed this so that any size practice can use and have the benefit of having a resident. When you have a resident, you have somebody who is there to learn, and they're there because they've chosen your practice because of the culture of medicine that you provide. And so you've interviewed them just like a job interview, but you don't own them, you don't buy them, as I say, but they're there to learn. And at the end of that, once they do have that year of experience, then you can decide it's a known factor. You know what they can chart, you know how they work with staff, you know how well they refer, and do they refer properly? Do they have proper patient outcomes? Are they documenting properly? Are they coding properly? Are you getting the benefit of having another provider in your practice the way you should be? And have they grown? And we have different measurement tools that are in there so that you can evaluate those things. But we have studies that show that when it comes to the business side of things, an increased RVUs of a 15% by just going through a residency, which makes a big difference at the end of the year when you're billing, and better patient outcomes. And they can also get to seeing patients at volume much quicker than if they were just a new grad that you hire. And one of the best parts about this is graduate medical education. And in the United States, CMS, Medicare and Medicaid, actually have some reimbursement money available at the state level, even for APP, graduate medical education. And you get to bill for every encounter that resident does at your facility. So you're actually now, instead of hemorrhaging money, recruiting and hiring on a prayer and hoping, you're now making and getting paid to train your next potential new provider. And that changes the equation for everybody, whether it's primary care, psychiatry, cardiology, pulmonology, radiology. And we're launching psychiatry first, but we're going to ultimately have over 30 medical specialties for residency in the next year and a half. So that if you are looking to, retire, if you're looking to find a replacement, if you're looking to add to your practice, or if you need to fulfill open positions, it's an excellent way to get the newest and best qualified new hires.
I will provide the contact information, but let me ask you a couple of questions.
Yes.
A lot of physicians are now, they have a second location, third location. They don't have providers, and they want to replace with APPs on, nurse practitioner or physician assistants. Can you give us some kind of a leeway into that direction for them?
So one of the beautiful things about that is that as they're attending, your APP can be at the same location or at a different location, because they're fully licensed and they're fully credentialed and they're able to practice. They just don't have that experience. We provide all of the additional training online and pathopharmacology and procedural training, and then you guide them in the clinical practice and oversee them, and you're that mentor for them to help them through their patient cases during the week. And actually once a week we have the APPs make case presentations to their attending on their current book of patients, so that they can always be on top of it in communication. Because one of the things they need to learn how to do is to work independently, think for themselves, and they need to be able to give a good case presentation and document properly. So yeah, this would work for those situations, because then they're going to have more confidence in the care that their patients are receiving at their second location.
A lot of nurse practitioners and physician assistants are coming to the primary care side now. They're becoming independent providers. For them, I think that one of the things is that the doctors in general, they have a long standing experience with other doctors, and other things they have experience how to code, how to bill, what kind of things you need. So that kind of a training is not there for the nurse practitioners and physician assistants and other primary care providers. This your program helps those kind of APPs?
Absolutely. Historically, before our program, when an APP would graduate and get licensed, they would get hired, given a high five and a pen, and say, "Go at it, go see your patients because you can practice." And they would fumble through. The chances of a mistake are high. You have some rock stars that just really do great, but again, the chance of a mistake or an error is high, and a lot of times, they're missing out on a lot of reimbursements because they don't have the training in coding and billing, and that's one of the things we make sure that they do have is understanding how to code properly and how to document so that their coding is appropriate, so the reimbursements are maximized.
Excellent, Dino. Just a bit, hang on. I will do a presentation. When I come back, I will ask you a question about how the international nurses and then can come down have a preceptor training. There can be follow through that. When I get back, I will ask you the questions. Let me do the presentation. Today's presentation is, that. Um, It's about the ancient Chinese master pharmacologist. That is actually is on the. I'm going to talk about him. Basically, he was is a Vietnam. As you know, Vietnam War in 1955 to 1975. The United States went through a Vietnam War, and it's actually the war between the South Vietnam and North Vietnam. The South Vietnam is supported by United States. America supported it. North Vietnam is supported by China. So it's actually there was a behind the scenes fight between the United States and China. This there is a It took a lot of psychological toll on Americans. It took a psyche on American social structure, and then I tell you why. This is Chairman Mao. Is his name is Mao Zedong. Is a chairman of the Mao. He's a premier, like a premier now. They call him the prime minister premier. Now is a chairman at the time. Mao Zedong. He is the founder of the Chinese Communist Party. Is a very big Marxist Leninist follower. He's a brutal guy. He's a librarian. Surprisingly, he's a librarian, but he was a brutal dictator. And he started a cultural revolution in 1966 and those areas. He started in China cultural revolution. What the cultural revolution is, he hated all the intellectuals, doctors, scientists. He put them in hard labor camps. He sent them to rural areas, and then he sent all the doctors and scientists and everybody send them to rural areas. So he was a very interesting guy. He shakes hands with the people. In the left hand side, he was shaking hands with President Nixon at the time, and then he was also shaking hands with Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. They came to see him, and then he shakes hands and he talks very nice in front of the camera, in front of them. And then once they leave, again he starts the war. So actually that still he occupied India. In fact, in the parts of India he occupied during the China-Indo invasion. So there is a skirmishes, goes a lot of small fights, not a real fights, goes on between the line of control between India and China even now. So that is one of the hardest, dangerous zones in the world. India and China, the line of control is. So that's always a very hot spot. The two nuclear powers, they're facing each other in that line of control. So Mao Zedong is the one who started all these things. But the fall of Saigon is in April 29th, 1975. As we experienced recently, Afghanistan, that was the same thing happened in Saigon. And Saigon is the capital of the Vietnam at the time. It's Ho Chi Minh City, they call now. But it is a first Saigon that fell because one reason is North Vietnam. They are supported by Chinese soldiers. Almost 60,000 American soldiers were killed, and then millions of Vietnamese were killed. But they didn't care. Chinese were keep on sending people to there, supporting all kind of logistical, tactical support. But something strange happened. That's what happened. North Vietnam was edge of actually surrender. They were not. America was under the immense the air power they were using it, and actually they were about to lose. Another thing they were about to lose, not because that the power of United States, and there's another one that's a medical one, that is a malaria. Malaria was the biggest enemy during the North Vietnam and South Vietnamese war, because North Vietnamese falling sick in a large numbers,
And then China, Mao Zedong, he thought that he's going to lose the war. So, well, the malaria is, as you know, is a fever. It is a tiredness and vomiting, and it leads to death. Jaundice, all kinds of problems with the malaria. So half of the North Vietnamese, the soldiers were falling sick in a large numbers, almost more than 50%. So Mao did not like to lose the war. So what he did was, he first time he allowed to start a secret military project to find the medicines for malaria. That is called Project 523. The May 23, they started date 23 May. They started this project in 1967. It's a secret military project to solve the problem of finding a drug for the malaria. So he hired a person from Beijing Medical University. Her name is Tu Yu. She was she was a traditional Chinese medicine. It's not any Western sense. She's not qualified to be. She's not a doctor. She's not even a pharmacologist in the Western sense. She was studying in the during those days only Chinese herbs and all those things. There were Chinese medicines were traditional Chinese medicines were taught in the universities at the time. Very little exposure to the Western medicines. Leading the project for the 523 project. Name is Tu Yu. So what was is a traditional Chinese medicine is a 2,000 years old. It is a medical history, the medical encyclopedia. It is a there is based on a yin and yang, opposite forces of life. Summer and winter, that kind of thing. It is based on a lot of herbs and a lot of these animal bones and other things. It's based on a lot of practical knowledge. They created this 2,000-year-old encyclopedia. It's similar to Ayurveda, but it's very different. So it is actually that is a traditional Chinese medicine was already practiced. It was a very so she was the two Yu was very good in traditional Chinese medicine. But she came across a physician and a pharmacologist. His name is Ji Hong. Well, he was a linguist, he is a philosopher, he is a physician, he is a pharmacist, he is a politician and a writer. He was like a polymath of the for the fourth century. He's in fourth century of in the fourth century AD. He's a fourth century physician. So he is a curious like Einstein almost. He invaded the nearby provinces to acquire the libraries, to acquire the books. He is that much crazy about knowledge. So he is a unrelenting curiosity he has, that he wrote a book. He is the first one who wrote a book. He is the first aid kit for the humanity. He has written a book. It is called Zhu Zihao Beijifang. I think I'm saying it's right. For prescriptions for emergencies, he wrote in the fourth century. Think about that. Fourth century, he wrote that book. It is the record of he recorded the smallpox at the time, typhus, and then malaria. He called a different name. Malaria is the intermittent fevers. He called. So he did this in the fourth century. He documented all these things, and then he gave medications for this. He gave a treatments, not a Western sense the medications, but he gave herbal treatments. One of the treatments, this is called Xinghao. Xinghao is a sweet wormwood, is like a shrub, is grown all over China. It's basically a weed, it grows everywhere. He takes that one and he was treating with that through the putting in the water and then treating them with this intermittent fevers, the malaria. Then the actually is called sweet wormwood. They call it is actually that is widely available in China. He was treating the malaria. Now at that time it is called intermittent fevers. He was treating with this herbal medicine, herbal Xinghao shrub. But the problem was, so a lot of medical scholars translated that into the his book, into the what they did was they put in the hot tea and boiling water. That was a problem. They couldn't. The medical Chinese medical scholars translated is a original writing. So what two you is because they're putting in a hot water, very extreme hot water or hot tea, but in fact that is wrong. So what two you found out? Put in the warm water and put in the whole night, and then she was that was a treatment he prescribed. Ji Hong was prescribing. That is a one actual prescription. Putting in the warm water, put in the shenghao, the shrubs in the water, and they drink it in the morning. That's kind of thing is providing that kind of care, is curing the malaria. So what she did was, then she involved with other team members. So they found out the compound. It is the molecule. The artemisinin is a compound. They found out the molecular structure for the artemisinin is the one that is curing the. So they did a with artemisinin. They did a August 1972. They did a successful clinical trials with artemisinin. So that was a very huge success for traditional Chinese medicine, triumph of traditional Chinese medicine. You know, it is a now this is the Novartis took the drug and they changed into the different derivatives, and that's so right now, yeah, artemisinin and derivatives. So the only first and widely used drug right now, they use a combination drug, but it is a widely used for malaria. Still, that is the number one choice drug for the malaria after how many years? Almost 2020 now. Think about fourth century physician giving the treatment for these kind of things. He was that artemisinin is the compound that recreated it, and then they licensed it to Novartis. Novartis produces in the large quantities of anti-malaria drug. So she won the actually Nobel Prize. Tu Youyou won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for her discovery of that artemisinin compound, because it saved millions of lives. They published it in the worldwide. The secret project was stopped in 1982, but Project 523 stopped in the 1982. They published all over the journals, and then she won the Nobel. She got the Nobel Prize. She also won the last DeBakey Award, a prestigious award from Houston. That was another award she won. But she won the Nobel Prize in 2015 in medicine. So actually, surprisingly, she's still alive. I don't know what she's taking. She's 92 years old and still alive. So I can, let's think about that. So what she's doing something traditional Chinese medicine working for her. But so she credited actually to Ji Hong for doing this. She credited during the Nobel speech. She credited Ji Hong's prescription Shenghao shrub for the malaria treatment. So a fourth century physician, a pharmacologist, he set up a free clinic in the Mount Lofu in the mountains. He was actual aristocrat. He's very well known. His father is a military leader and he has a lot of money. But still, he went to the poor areas, Mount Lofu, and started practicing there in the free clinic he started it. He was a true physician in that sense. He's a pharmacologist, physician, compounder, everything he did. So I think so he's still saving lives. Fourth century pharmacologist, Chinese traditional is a triumph for Chinese traditional medicine. It is a validation. As people know about acupuncture and other things. That is the power of this thing. So it's a tribute to there is a GE village in the Mount Lofu area. There is the actual GE lake. There is a folk hero there now. Where he said that very interesting is a scientific terms they used during the time, where the mystery is present, joy is infinite. Where the mystery has a departed, efficacy is exhausted, and the spirit disappears. Ji Hong. He was talking about scientific methods during the 4th century itself, long before Newton. so he is a remarkable physician. He's coming from a physician and a pharmacologist from the 4th century, still saving lives even today. So He's saving a lot of lives even now. Novartis is doing, there's a therapy that's they use artemisinin, they use in different derivatives of artemisinin still, number one choice. So, so you can go and buy the t-shirts that I created, and you can buy a coffee mug t-shirt on the other G Hong t-shirts or coffee mugs on my things. Let me bring it back, and let me bring so you can go to dailywearformedicine.com. I will do the presentation at the I will do the final thing on that one. Let me bring Dino back and ask about India. How this see that? Let me bring. So Dino, that is 1 second.
I love that history. That's fantastic. And there's so much we can learn from just not prejudging things that are from the past, because there's a lot of truth in that, in natural remedies, and in ancient Chinese medicine that has led to so many different treatments today.
Yes.
So we should never look at it and say, oh no, that doesn't work, just because we've been taught Western medicine.
It is something now we know that they've been, we have to explore everything, all the options available for the nowadays is the problem. Let me, thank you for coming up with, let me ask you to come from other countries. You have any program you're creating for people, nurses wanted to get a short training or a training for in the United States? They want to see the best places to get the practice itself. Do you have any training, even for doctors, even for other countries, doctors want to come down and do that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're doing in our program is we're building it to the same standards that medical doctors have to go through residency and learn, because medicine is medicine, and it doesn't matter who's actually providing that medicine. They have to follow the same high quality standards. And by having that structure, and now with nurse practitioners being recognized by nearly 35 different countries around the world, but what happens is those countries, because they're just now getting into APP education, they don't have all the structure in place to do the training and to do the advanced training to get them ready to practice. And they're going to be able to come here to America to even, not only to get into a program to become a nurse practitioner, but to go through residency and to be able to go back to their country and provide better care and better quality, quality service to the patients. And it's so exciting that that this is now going to help around the world, and we're looking forward to working with different countries and working with those the governments to be able to help these nurses become nurse practitioners, or the nurse practitioners become competent and trained, and to be able to go back to their country and not only share that knowledge, but to increase the quality of care. When we were talking earlier, in India, they have a tremendous health problem with chronic disease such as diabetes, and there's only so many doctors that can see patients.
My father is a doctor. Actually, my father is not a doctor. He is a registered medical practitioner. That's similar to nurse practitioners here. He was doing, because a small village. We are from a small village, and that there is no other doctors there. Actually, my father is the only doctor there available. So he is providing. He was a self-taught doctor in that town. So all his medical knowledge, everything came from books that he got it from. He was trying to get it from as much as he can. He's extremely curious man, like Ji Hong, my father. He was treating the entire village people. I was thinking, if he had a training like this one we have in other countries for him, he would have been a greatest one of the inventors of the physician. Into one of those things. That he did a lot of traditional medicine, Ayurveda he did, and also he did the allopathy, the English medicine from England. A lot of things from England he did practice that one. So it's extremely valuable now. Everybody is the globe is becoming smaller, and people like you providing that kind of a absolute training, and they're getting to the next level. When they go back, they can say I have the training from the United States, with utmost very well-designed program, it is a big plus.
Oh, absolutely. And in my career, I've had the opportunity to work with many doctors from India and many doctors and nurses from the Philippines and from the United Kingdom, um, coming here, in even China and Japan that have come here. And a lot of them are here, they get the additional training, but they always go back home and they have that draw to go back home to help their people, help their village. And, we go into healthcare for a lot of different reasons. And with me, it was a passion. It was a calling. I always tell people I was a nerd growing up. I wanted to be Marcus Welby, who, long time ago, 40 years ago on television, was one of the original TV doctors. But he was a country doctor where he would still go out to people's homes and he knew generations of those people. I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be, to get to, know my patients and to know their generations and to be able to help care for them and provide that quality of life. And now where I'm at in my career, I have the opportunity to share that knowledge through this program to other practitioners and take it back to the rural areas that have no health care and have no access to care in India or the UK or the Philippines. And it's really exciting. And I really look forward to that opportunity and to watch that whole process grow and to see the difference it makes.
What is your what is the address? What is your contact information? I can put it there. What is the web address? What is the website you have? They can check it out.
So it's actually pretty easy. It's clinicalmatchme.com. Because it's all about matching somebody with clinicals. So it's clinicalmatchme.com, and that or you can reach out to Dino at clinicalmatchme.com. And we're actually we moved to Puerto Rico a little over a year ago because who doesn't want to live on a tropical island while you work and and enjoy the scenery and the beautiful weather. And so we're actually part of the United States, but we are on a tropical island, which is wonderful.
Are you in San Juan? Where are you right now?
Actually, I'm currently in Fajardo, Puerto Rico, which is on the very northeast corner of the island. And you have a beautiful view of the rainforest mountains and the beach all at the same time out my back door. And it's so calming and relaxing so that while you're working to develop the curriculum and putting in the 15-hour, 20-hour days sometimes to get this program ready to share it over the past couple of years, now, to get it to the point where we're now sharing the knowledge and getting people prepared. It's really wonderful because, taking care of oneself is so important, especially as a healthcare provider, whether you're a doctor or a nurse practitioner. You have to be able to take care of yourself so that you can also care for others.
Do you know that Puerto Rico is similar to a lot of a tropical country. India is like that. Is a tropical structures. The diseases some of them are very common kind of things that go around that tropical diseases, right? That
oh yeah, you don't want to get bit by a mosquito no matter where you're at. Whether it's carrying malaria or whether it's carrying equine encephalitis or whether it's carrying, there's just, there's so many problems that you can get with the tropical, in the tropics. So, the knowledge is going to be applicable in each location.
www.clinicalmatchme.com is truly an honor to talk with you, Dino. It is a very informative and people are going to get benefit from your talk. Thank you. You're welcome anytime. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I look forward.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.
Thank you.